Since it's Nurses Week, I thought that I would talk about how important nurses are and how hard the job is, talk about that special resilience that you need to do it, and the toughness and really the genius of so many of the nurses that I've known and worked with. But then I ran across this photo and it just made me smile. It's a photo of my mom, Stella. She was an ER nurse and then she was a geriatric nurse. And she had so many stories from that time, some thoughtful, most hilarious. Like the time that she was on her way to work and was actually attacked by a stranger who'd been assaulting people near the hospital over the past few weeks. She cracked him over the head with an iron brew bottle and ran away. And then he came into the ER but didn't recognize her when he went to get his stitches. When she told that story, she'd always grin and say, "Well, I must have been very rattled by the whole thing, since normally she gave such neat, small, painless stitches." He got something decidedly different that night before the police arrived to arrest him. Or the time that she had an elderly gent in the ward that she worked in. He was practically a caricature of a British World War One pilot. Huge handlebar mustache, smoked a pipe in the hospital when he could get away with it. He had a monocle and actually wore his medals on his pajamas. He was missing a leg from being shot down. One night, she said she heard a really loud crash and ran through into the room. She found him, medals and all, on the floor, missing his pajama bottoms. And he looked around for his monocle, pops it back in, and says, "Frightfully sorry, old bean. Got up to go to the loo, stepped on the wrong damn leg, and forgot the Jerry's took that one." She passed away nearly 4 years ago, my mom did. But I think I got my love of taking care of people and of great stories from her. Now, what I need to do is persuade my great aunt Sissy to let me have a photo of her when she was a student nurse. She's 96 years old and she still does her continuing education to maintain an active RN license, if you can believe that. At my sister's wedding a few years ago, she had a pretty nasty fall while we were taking the photographs. I sat down and chatted with her for a couple of hours while I was, at least I thought, surreptitiously doing some neuro checks to make sure she didn't have any brain bleeds or anything. She had a cup of tea and a biscuit. Finally, I just said, "Sissy, I think you're doing fine, but I really want to get you to the hospital and have someone more qualified than me to take a look at you." Well, she put down her tea and fixed me with that imperious stare of hers and a raised eyebrow. And she said, "David, I think that you're forgetting that I'm more qualified than you. I've been a registered nurse for 72 years, you know. Now, I understand that you're in geriatrics. I was a paediatric nurse working with children with muscular dystrophy. Did you happen to see the article in The Lancet last May about that? Some fascinating research we didn't have in my day." She went on to tell me all about the article that she'd read on neuroscience in a medical journal 7 months earlier. Safe to say, I think that in her 90s and after a fall, she wasn't showing that she had any cognitive issues. I hope I got those genes. Nurses are just a special group. My mom was, my great aunt still is. I could tell stories for weeks on end about the great nurses that I've worked with: Sean, Jennifer, Heather, Marilyn, Josie, Liz, Al, Patty. Really far too many to name. I'm so sorry if I missed you out. You're all brilliant. But they all had a couple of things in common. They were all smart. They all maintained that sense of humor that you have to when you're dealing with some really, really hard things for people. Um, they were competent. They were compassionate. And in a crisis, they were in command. Nurses, and that includes nurses' aides, save lives. They make a bad healthcare system work, sometimes by sheer force of will. And now it's incumbent on all of us to work to make sure that nurses get the respect, the pay, and the support that they so, so deserve.